For today's Business Matters, we have Don Ma here with us. Don, it's always great to see you. What's happening today?
Yeah, good to see you guys as well. So there's actually news about semiconductors, so let me start off with that. EV chip maker Wolfspeed is set to receive $750 million in U.S. government grants, and this is for the company's new manufacturing plant facility in North Carolina. Now, the Commerce Department's announcement sent shares up more than 30%, and Wolfspeed makes chips that transmit power from EV batteries to its motors. The department said that Wolfspeed's devices are also used for renewable energy systems as well as industrial uses on top of that, and for artificial intelligence applications. Wolfspeed said that investments support its long-term growth plans. More and more U.S. consumers are scared that they're going to become delinquent. So for the fourth straight month, the anticipated probability of missing a minimum debt payment over the next 3 months went up. That equates to a roughly 1 in 7 chance. This is based on the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's monthly survey of consumer expectations. The increase last month reached the highest level since April 2020. In recent years, Americans have been accumulating debt due to elevated interest rates. The survey also found that more consumers reported they are worse off financially than a year ago, but respondents saw a better outlook ahead for the year. And oil prices have plunged. They tumbled 4% today, down to a 2-week low. And this is in response to a report from the Washington Post that said Israel would not strike Iranian nuclear and oil sites. So this eased fears of a supply disruption. Investors were concerned Israel could strike Iran's oil facilities in retaliation for Tehran's missile attack on October 1st. And the price dip is also in response to weaker demand. Both OPEC and the International Energy Agency have cut their forecasts for global oil demand growth this year. And China's economic slowdown accounts for a bulk of the downgrades. Now, moving on, Walgreens says it's going to close 1,200 stores over the next 3 years. CEO Tim Wentworth is working on a turnaround plan for the struggling pharmacy chain, and this includes a $1 billion cost-cutting program. So the chain has been hit by sluggish consumer spending and low drug reimbursement rates. Walgreens narrowly beat Wall Street's already lowered estimates for fourth quarter adjusted profits. The company told analysts that 1 out of 4 locations are unprofitable. That's why Walgreens will focus on the underperforming locations in the first round of closures. 500 stores are expected to shutter next year. And plane maker Boeing is about to fire 17,000 workers as the big strike enters its 5th week. CEO Kelly Ortberg saying the business is in a difficult position. Here's the story.
Strike, 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 strike. Boeing is about to lay off 17,000 workers, or around 10% of its workforce. It will delay deliveries, end certain programs, and endure losses, largely due to the 33,000 striking employees. The strike has cost Boeing nearly $5 billion, according to an Anderson Economic Group analysis. Those surrounding Boeing also feeling the pain. Its suppliers hit with $900 million in losses, and airlines hit with $285 million worldwide. New CEO Kelly Ortberg telling employees that the business is in a difficult position. Labor negotiations broke down last week. Boeing executive Stephanie Pope says the union did not seriously consider Boeing's proposals. International Association of Machinists leader John Holden says there is a deal to be had. Union members are being paid through a strike fund while they're not working. In crisis mode, Boeing is looking to raise around $35 billion through stock and debt offerings. This comes after the door blew off a plane earlier this year, 2 jet crashes, and a guilty plea for defrauding the FAA. CEO Ortberg writes to his employees, "Thank you for all that you are doing through this very challenging time at Boeing. We will navigate through this moment."
And hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers in California will be getting a pay raise this week. The state Lowest paid healthcare workers will see their minimum wage gradually increase to $25 an hour beginning tomorrow. And the wage hike will affect more than 400,000 workers, and that's including janitors and cooks in healthcare facilities. The pay boost was supposed to go into effect earlier this summer, but it was delayed due to state budget issues. The pay raise comes just months after fast food workers in the state saw their minimum wage increased to $20 an hour. Now, the new CEO for Starbucks has some ideas for company changes, such as getting rid of many of the sales and deals they've been previously known for. And TD's Sean Marshall has more information about that with reactions from customers.
Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol plans to calm down on all the sales and deals that the company is often offering for their coffee, food, and assorted other items. The purpose is to make the company more of a premium brand, and also to put less stress on the workers who get overworked when the promotions are being offered. Went to the Starbucks Reserve store in the Empire State Building to find out how the customers feel about the changes.
I don't think I would buy anything from Starbucks if it wasn't for the deals, because for me the coffee is not the best one. So I guess I have many other options that are cheaper, at least in my country. I don't know here.
The changes must make the brand better, and leaders will evaluate the impact on customers and workers. Niccol said in September during an internal company forum that was eventually viewed by the Wall Street Journal and verified by CNN.
So you go to the Europe and there is a lot of Starbucks coffee, right? And like everybody knows the Starbucks logotype and brand, right? So I don't think they need to change it. Probably they can build more Starbucks Reserve like this. So if we have like all the Starbucks in the city like this, that would be perfect.
The Starbucks Reserve here at the Empire State Building is a multi-floor coffee experience with a coffee tasting and experience room on the downstairs floor, shop, and upstairs cocktail lounge.
I think the coffee and everything in the brand, they've got everything about the brand right. It's just the stuff that behind the scenes maybe they need to improve upon.
Last month, Niccol stated that he wants to return Starbucks to its roots as a community coffee house with comfortable seats, improved design, and a clear distinction between to-go and for-here service. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Property losses are adding up in the wake of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Several analysts put the number of insured losses in the tens of billions of dollars. Increasingly frequent severe weather events may serve as a policy wake-up call, especially when it comes to flooding coverage. Here's more.
Nobody is immune to flooding in the United States.
Nowhere is that more devastatingly apparent than in the southeastern U.S., where a 1-2 punch by Hurricanes Helene and Milton have left entire regions across 6 states completely decimated.
Unfortunately, most of the losses we are seeing from the tragedy of Hurricane Helene are not insured.
Those uninsured Helene-related losses could reach $30 billion, according to one assessment by CoreLogic. In the mountains of western North Carolina, where entire towns were washed away by historically high flooding, many residents did not carry flood insurance.
If they don't live in a coastal area, they figure they're safe.
Mark Friedlander of the Insurance Information Institute says Helene's catastrophic aftermath serves as a reminder for everyone to review their homeowner's policy.
No matter where you live in the country, you need to own your risk, meaning you need to understand the potential hazards you might face in your community,
such as regions with higher wildfire risk or frequent tornado activity. But Friedlander also points out
your standard property insurance policy does not cover flood. That's why you need to have separate coverage. And that's true nationally.
And that's true because
if it rains at your home, it could flood at your home.
And Medicare Enrollment has officially opened. Enrollees can make changes to their coverage, which will go into effect on January 1st. This year, there are many vital changes, from insurers dropping plans to reducing offerings. So maximum out-of-pocket costs will also be going up. One group estimates a $450 overall increase next year in Medicare Advantage plans. Then about a quarter of standalone Part D plans will be dropped. But out-of-pocket costs will top out at $2,000. The Medicare prescription payment plan will let enrollees pay their prescription costs monthly instead of all at once. If patients have preferred doctors, it is important to note that more hospitals will also be leaving planned networks. The enrollment period ends on December 7th. Former President Donald Trump sat down with Bloomberg's editor-in-chief today in front of the Economic Club of Chicago. Trump answered questions on a host of topics, including his support for tariffs on foreign imports. Listen.
We're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs because I'm a believer in tariffs.
Trump has suggested plans for sweeping tariffs of 10 to 20% on most imports. Those include an at least 60% duty on goods from China. In September, the former president said he would apply a 200% tariff on John Deere imports if the company moved to Mexico. Last week in Detroit, Trump threatened the same tariffs on every car coming across the U.S.-Mexico border. He has also said he would reward U.S.-based manufacturers with research and development tax credits. And following the interview, Trump will travel to Georgia. His events include a pre-taped recorded town hall with Fox News' Harris Faulkner, focusing on women's issues, and a rally in Atlanta later today. Vice President Kamala Harris will sit down for an interview with radio host Charlemagne the God in Detroit. And the CEO of BMW has a proposal for Europe to reduce its dependence on China. He says the bloc must scrap plans to ban new gasoline-powered cars. Here are the details.
Europe must cancel its plan to ban new fossil fuel-emitting cars from 2035. That was the message from BMW CEO Oliver Zipse on Tuesday. He believes such a move would help reduce reliance on China's battery supply chain. Zipse has long pushed for regulators to permit various technologies, including hydrogen fuel cell cars. However, he said Tuesday the mood in Europe was trending towards one of pessimism. He also argued the region needed a new regulatory framework to stay competitive. Last year, EU countries approved a landmark law that would require all new cars to have zero CO2 emissions from 2035. The move effectively banned diesel and petrol vehicles. But car makers, including BMW, Volkswagen and Renault, have called for the CO2 targets to be loosened or delayed. They fear the impact of heavy fines because of lower than expected EV sales. But Zipse's home country of Germany has rejected an early review of the targets.
And finishing off with Wall Street here, major stock indexes closed lower today. The technology-heavy Nasdaq leading the declines. Chip stocks sold off on fears of weak demand. So the Nasdaq came under particular pressure from market heavyweight NVIDIA. This is the leading chip maker for artificial intelligence. Its shares fell after a media report that the Biden administration is considering capping AI chip exports by U.S. companies. And earnings reports were a mixed bag with mostly positive reactions to financial services results. The energy industry index was under pressure as crude prices fell on weaker demand expectations after a media report that I mentioned earlier that suggested Israel would not strike Iranian oil targets. And that's all the stories we have for you on Business Matters. Back to you guys, Carrie, Fiona.
Thanks, Don. A lot of interesting things, specifically Starbucks struggling with the inflation with their new CEO just a couple weeks in there, planning to maybe shake up their pricing strategy. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to become a more premium brand. But just one thing that I want is that, you know, can they get people's names correctly on the cups of their Starbucks coffee? Or do you have to pay premium price for that as well?
Well, I have heard that it is a marketing strategy there because more people post on social media when their names are wrong. And so they think that maybe this is a way for them to get more exposure. But I don't know. I agree with what one of those customers, our reporter interviewed there out on the street, said, you know, there are so many other coffee shops with a nicer experience, nicer coffee, and that are local or more specialized bougie coffees. So if it weren't for the price, I don't think I would go to Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, I would keep the deals, at least to compensate for the misspelled names. I don't want to pay full price and have a misspelled name.
Well, for tomorrow, I think we should all come up with our pen names for when we order our Starbucks for later this week. But Don, thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Don.
All right.